Hello, everyone, and welcome to a special live episode of the DCL Show, coming to you from the Bob Varley Studio in Orlando, Florida. I'm your host, Pete Werner, joined in the studio this week by my producer, Mr. Craig Williams,
Hoi hoi.
and joining us via the interwebs from Dreams Unlimited Travel, Ms. Elaine Edwards,
Hi, friends.
and our good friend and Broadway star, Mr. Andrew Wilson.
Hey, thanks so much for having me on.
And of course, Andrew used to work in entertainment before he went on to the Bright Lights of Broadway. He worked in entertainment on DCL. And that's one of the things we are going to talk about today. There's actually a few things I want to talk about, but we are hearing reports that entertainment cast members are being called back to work for Disney Cruise Line. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. Also, we have been told, I'm not sure if this is official, but DCL will be starting test sailings on the Dream, I believe, at the end of June. These are the volunteer sailings they need to do in order to get approval from the CDC to resume operation. And I want to talk a little bit about President Biden's Alaska Tourism Restoration Act, where he basically said it was okay for cruises to go out of the U.S. to Alaska this season. So very excited about all this news. We talk about on the show. I've talked about it feels like we're starting to turn a corner, right? And with this whole world on fire crap that we've been dealing with. But for me, I've just, and I think for a lot of us, really been waiting for cruise line. That's like the last piece of the puzzle to say, okay, we really are turning a corner now. Cruise line starts coming back. Of course, right now the cruises going out of England, the staycation cruises, which I believe, Elaine, the end of this month, those go out, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
Yep.
so, that was definitely a good sign, but it's in England and it's only for British citizens. That kind of sucked for us. But now hearing that simulated cruises on the Disney Dream will set sail in late June from Port Canaveral. This was a leak. This was a leaked letter, an internal letter by DCL President Tom Maslum, basically saying that they're going to start doing the test sailings. The CDC requires that. And Elaine was just telling me this before. The CDC requires these test sailings if you are going to have less than 95% or 90% of your passengers vaccinated. So this has been a big, big, big question as to whether or not DCL was going to require guests to be vaccinated before they could sail. And of course, for young children, there are no they're not cleared for vaccines at this point. So that was going to present a problem for DCL, as was sailing out of Port Canaveral, because the governor of Florida issued an executive order recently saying that businesses in Florida could not require proof of vaccination or deny service. So, I think the fact that they're getting ready to do a test sailing says they are probably not going to require vaccines. You guys agree with that?
Well, I think that there is a strong possibility that they may still require it for adults, but because this is a family cruise line and young children cannot get the vaccine, then that would be the exception. So that's kind of my thinking. I think there is a very strong possibility that adults, maybe 18 years and older, may still be required.
I don't know how they're going to get around the executive order. I don't believe the governor is going to rescind that for Disney. I don't.
Mm-hmm.
So that's...
I'll just say this. I live in New York City, right next to Columbia Medical Center. So I've been through the trenches with the refrigerated trucks and the whole gambit. And I think Dr. Fauci said 2 weeks from right now is when we're really going to know if this experiment, like the status of it, because I can tell you at my gym in New York, you don't have to wear a mask. They don't check for your vaccination. And I think New York is currently hovering around like 44% vaccinated. So they're waiting to see, they're like, okay, 2 weeks. We're not asking if anyone has a vaccine card or not, but we're clearly mixing and people aren't wearing a mask. So is this gonna cause a huge spike again? And I think it's really smart of DCL, because isn't it the simulation's in like July, the end of July,
Late
End of June.
end of June. So I think like it'll be well with after the 2 weeks to see kind of what happens with that. I am no medical expert, but I think it's a really smart approach for them to do it.
And you know what the CDC requires of this is that it be a volunteer, that the crews be staffed with volunteers. You can't charge people for this. And of course, you know, you've heard me say, and I'm sure a lot of you out there is like, where do I sign up? What we've heard from sources inside Disney Cruise Line is that they are using all cast members as their volunteer cruisers, which kind of, I mean, that's great, you know, great for them. I mean, God knows they need a break, but God, I was so hoping to be on that ship. I'm so hoping to be on. I think I'm the last person. I think I am the last.
Saying, who can I call that will pull strings for me and get me on that ship?
I really believe I would be the absolute last person they would let volunteer. Like, he'll be streaming everything, he'll be filming everything. I think I'm the last person they'd let do that. But the fact that we're talking about this now, this is the last step. This is the last step before they can resume cruising. And it's late June. It's late June. They're calling back entertainment cast members to come back on the ship. And Andrew, what has it been like as, you know, somebody in the entertainment, like, again, now you haven't been with Disney for a few years. You've been working on Broadway. What has it been like for you?
I mean, I'm sure a lot of industries have had similar things, but, you know, I was actually doing a show. I was supposed to fly out, you know, on a Friday morning, and Thursday night at 9 p.m., it was like the last week of February, I got a call like, hey, they're canceling the show. You're not going anymore. And I'm like, it's 12 hours. Like, what? And it just felt like the rug was swept out from under us. And it was a very like selfish, self-centered thinking at the time of like, I can't survive, but I needed that job to pay my rent for the next month. And then our entire industry really shut down. And actors have found clever ways of making money, doing online classes and whatnot, but it's been super duper hard. And our union has been very strong in terms of requiring testing. I mean, I think that they just had one of the first shows start back across the country. So for actors, it's been, we've been in like desperate need of work. And I will also say this, I'm sure all three of you would agree with me that cruises have been doing sanitation better than all of us have for decades.
Yeah.
I mean, I can tell you this for any guests that are thinking of coming. In our crew mess where we eat, there are literally cameras above making sure you wash your hands. And if you don't wash your hands, you get written up or could be fired. And they literally make you like wash them for the good 30 seconds. And there are crew members, as you see, hanging around everywhere, handing out sanitation wipes. And this was in, my first cruise was November of 2007. So I have always kind of felt like we're in really good hands on ships. And I know a lot of companies will say safety is our priority, but Disney Cruise Line, it really was. I remember I was in a show where I was standing on a box that was 3 feet off the ground, and I did like a backflip off of it. And they were like, a safety person came in and said, 2.5 feet is the max limit unless you're harnessed on something. So they literally lowered it down for my one trick. And so Disney is one of the few companies I really do trust.
Yeah, I absolutely hate when they don't let me do backflips off 3-foot boxes. I run into that all the time. And
all the time. I've seen you at the pirate deck party.
It's crazy.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
But my whole thing is, it's a lot of people somehow have come through this almost better. I know some of my family has been like, no, we're actually making more money than before. I'm like, that's crazy. For actors, the cruise ship industry hires so many of us from around the world. And I know Disney, I don't know if they advertise this, but they now hire like a Broadway guest artist. On every show you see, there's at least like one principal actor who's in a Broadway show. And a lot of these people have been relying on it to pay rent, provide for their family. So I'm just so psyched to hear some of my friends. I have a few friends that are in England right now on the Magic, and watching them just, I don't think they're allowed off the ship at all, but seeing them like take photos out of their porthole, I'm like, I've been locked up in New York City. Like literally lock me up in my cabin for months. I don't care. As long as they're like making money and performing again. It's
now. Let me ask
exciting.
Andrew. Let me ask you a question. Are the performers on the ship, are they union?
So they're not. It's like an international. So the union, the Actors Equity Union, is only in the United States.
Oh, right.
And Canada-ish. They have an agreement with Canada. But so we rehearse in Toronto. It's not part of the union. However, I can assure you it is all abided by the equity guidelines. Like there's a break every hour and 10 minutes and all that jazz.
Okay.
But no, we don't get like our insurance through them. It's through Disney, and yeah.
And of course, you think the number of times I do these shows, I would remember this. This show, along with all of the content that we produce, brought to you by dreamsunlimitedtravel.com. And if you like our content, you like what we do, and you want to show your support, please book your next Disney Cruise Line vacation through Dreams. You get an awesome agent like Elaine. You'll also get an awesome shipboard credit, along with a very nice gift sent to your home before your cruise with things that you didn't know you needed on your cruise, sent by our wonderful team out at our Dreams Unlimited disboards.com welcome center out in Cape Canaveral. So dreamsunlimitedtravel.com, please help us out. Because I'll tell you, Elaine has had a very busy few weeks. Very, very, very busy few weeks with the Wish in particular.
Oh my goodness. When I was getting ready right before the show, I was like, man, my eyes are really red. It's been 2 weeks of like 3 hours sleep every night. It's been very, very, very busy, but very exciting.
It has been. It's been, it's just all of this stuff, right? Especially anything cruise related gets me so excited, right? It's like, okay, because that's what I'm missing. That's what the first opportunity I have to step foot on a Disney ship. I'm going to be on it. I don't care what I have to pay. I don't care where I have to go. And I specify Disney. I've done many of the other cruise lines, have a lot of good things to say about them. I'm not saying anything bad. And Dreams can book them for you too. Royal Caribbean, Norwegian, Princess, Carnival, all of those can be booked through Dreams Unlimited as well. But for me, Disney Cruise Line is my pinnacle. That's my happy place, and that's what I've missed most of all in these this last year. And Andrew was talking about how strict Disney is with their cleanliness and their sanitizing. But we've said for years that Disney Cruise Line often exceeds the CDC guidelines of what's required of cruise ships. They go above and beyond, always have. So it's not a pandemic thing. I mean, they were already doing like pandemic level cleaning on that ship before. And so yeah, I agree. I trust them implicitly with this. And part of that is corporate responsibility, no doubt. But it's also PR. Like the last thing Disney wants. Oh, did you lose me?
Yeah,
Okay.
I have no idea what happened.
The last thing Disney wants is a news story that says, oh, we had an outbreak of Ebola on our ship. So not that Ebola breaks out on ships. But what's the one that always happens on cruises? Norovirus. They don't want that story. it was also one of the reasons why Disney World was so strict about everything when it reopened. Not just out of a sense of responsibility, but also we don't, with that Disney name, that's a guaranteed above the fold lead story. Outbreak on Disney ship, outbreak in Disney theme park. So they've really done a great job, with that all along. So
And
I trust them.
I'll piggyback on that for a sec. Like with the norovirus, or we call it GI, if a ship hits a certain percentage of guests or crew with it, they shut the ship down, which through the 6 years I worked on the ship, I did see other cruise ships do that. On Disney, you're thinking, oh my goodness, there's so many kids. Like, surely this is just a disease spreader floating on the sea. But, as a crew member, I didn't interact with kids directly, but I ate every meal with youth activities counselors, with cruise staff. When you go into those kids' areas, they have those really super fun hand washing machines. I don't know if you've ever seen them, but you put your hand in and it spirals antibacterial soap around them and washes them for you. If there was ever a chance for a disease to be spread, they nipped it in the bud then. Like, I never got GI norovirus. You would hear about it, a little bit here and there, but for the amount of kids we had, 365 days a year of cruising, I've never heard of a Disney ship ever have an outbreak.
Knock wood.
So, knock on wood. But I'm just saying, like, for anyone who's been scared, and I mean, it was scary living in New York City and everywhere, I really trust them.
And, something else I was thinking about, too, because somebody asked me this when I was talking about, I was just a friend who's not a Disney fan, looks at me like I got six heads because of what I do for a living. Had asked me, I was talking about how much I trust Disney, and I trust them with cruises. He's like, okay, would you trust your mother? Would you trust them with your mother? And I didn't miss a beat. I'm like, yeah, I would. My mother's going to be 91 years old. And she's vaccinated. And I would absolutely trust Disney with my mother. In fact, when I can book a Disney cruise, I will probably take her with me. So yeah, I don't think we could say, I don't think I could give any more of a vote of confidence to DCL than that. Now, I do want to talk, we did talk about it on another show, but I wanted to do it here as well. The executive order signed, I think it was last week or the week before, by President Biden, called the Alaska Tourism Restoration Act. The act temporarily allows foreign flag cruise ships to sail directly from Washington State to Alaska without having to dock in Canada first. And for those not familiar with how the industry works, if a ship is flagged outside the U.S., as virtually all cruise ships are, you'll see them flagged in the Bahamas, for example, which is where Disney is flagged. They must, on an itinerary, if they are going to sail to any U.S. ports, they must go into an international port or international waters at some point during the voyage. And otherwise, they have to be flagged in the U.S. and they have to follow U.S. labor laws, which means 8-hour work days, time and a half for overtime, certain amount of time for breaks. All those labor laws that we have in the U.S. do not apply to cruise ships that are flagged elsewhere. So this was a big deal because there was no way. Canada won't allow cruises in its ports right now. That's the decision that government has made. So there was no way for Disney or any other cruise line to go to Alaska. They would have to go out of the U.S. and they would not be able to stop in Canada. And they're not gonna, they're not gonna like go to Mexico first and then come back up to Alaska. So this was a big deal. Now, the Alaska cruise season it technically started a few weeks ago. That's when it normally, like May. is when that starts. Now, whether we'll see any Disney Alaska sailings, I'm doubting it. I'm doubting it. Have you guys heard anything? Have you heard anything at all about that?
So the really interesting thing is that when they made cancellations for the month of July, they canceled everything on the Dream, going to Bahamas. They canceled everything on the Fantasy, going to the Caribbean. But they left the Alaska sailings for the second half of July. So it puts people in a very hard position because they don't know what to do at this point. They don't know if they're sailing on this cruise. They don't know where they're sailing out of. We don't really know what's going to happen, but they are hanging tight onto those Alaska sailings. And what I'm questioning is how they are going to handle it. If they announce that they are sailing to Alaska this season, are they going to cancel everything they have on the books and restart these as brand new sailings, since it's a completely different itinerary, and then book them from scratch? Are they going to modify people and allow them to cancel? Like, we have no idea, but we are 6 weeks away from some of these sailings, so we need to make some decisions here.
Well, this has been my biggest criticism with Disney Cruise Line from the beginning of the pandemic. Their communication with their audience, with their fans, with their customers has been abysmal. And not that they're giving bad information, they're giving none. And I've hammered them about it. I know a lot of people have sent in emails, a lot of people, okay. I thought I was getting a notification about something. A lot of people have criticized them about it, and they're nonplussed. They're sticking to this. We're not saying anything, and so that's always bothered me. That's always bothered me. But they're gonna have to say something soon. Craig,
they have to say something for a lot of reasons too. If you start up conversations with a lot of people at Skagway and Juneau and Ketchikan, there are people who actually live in Alaska year-round and in those ports, but a lot of them solely go up there in the summer just to work for that time, and then they go back home to the lower 48.
Yeah, no one lives there.
Yeah, so it's not it's great if Disney and or other cruise lines go up to Alaska, but then you have a lot of people who need to go up there to then also work these jobs that are what cruisers go to Alaska for. You don't want to get up there and find out okay, well, this restaurant didn't reopen because not enough staff came back. This experience isn't available because we don't have enough. Then it's yeah, you're getting the beautiful scenery out of it, but it's also the experiences at each of the ports that adds to it as well.
Yeah, Alaska sailings. Oh my God, you've never seen anything so beautiful in your life, especially going up the Inside Passage. I'm not somebody who sits still. I don't do sitting still really well. I can sit on the balcony of my stateroom going up the Inside Passage for hours, and just watch the scenery unfold. It's cool, and it's really weird because in the morning, it's kind of foggy and gray, right? And it's everything kind of looks black and white. And as the day goes on, and you move further up the Inside Passage, you start seeing more colors. And it's like watching a movie unfold from black and white to color over the course of 6 hours. And it's just, I don't know. It's really hard to describe. Absolutely stunning experience. And I've done it on Norwegian, Royal, and Disney. And Norwegian and Royal did a good job, but Disney, yeah.
One day I want you to do a cruise line that offers the one-way itinerary to go up to Anchorage so you can go to Glacier Bay National Park, because it is just so incredible. You would knowing how much you love the Inside Passage, you would lose your mind. And I wish Disney would do it one day on their ships. I get why they stick to it.
I think the ABD
but...
does it. I think the Alaska ABD does Glacier Bay National Park, but I don't remember.
Yeah.
But yeah, very. Can't wait to. I usually go to Alaska. I do the Alaska cruise every year. This is the first year in a while I'm not doing it. Or well, last year too, obviously. But
I'll just
add. Go ahead, Andrew.
Oh, no. Continue.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna. I never got to do Alaska, but I've done the Norwegian fjords, and I think a lot of people who haven't been on the northern itineraries, they just think, no, I want palm trees and I want beach. And I got to tell you what, I've done both. And the when you're up in the north and you are literally, sailing past giant icebergs and snow-capped mountains, and it's odd the way. I don't know how it was in Alaska, but it's still kind of warm on the ship. Like it was like 70 degrees.
It depends on it depends.
Yeah.
If you're doing early in the season, if you're doing May, June, it's cold. It's cold.
Yeah.
July, August, it warms up a little.
I've been in Canaveral when it's been like 30 degrees. But there's a different type of cruising that comes out during the northern itinerary. It's very like that Swedish term hygge. Like it's very comforting and cozy. There's a different camaraderie amongst the guests in northern cruises. I find it to be a little more educational. I don't know. I totally am there with you. I would jump on an Alaskan cruise. I just wanted to add to, I think it's called the Jones Act. Don't quote me on that, but it was this law that was actually to promote U.S. shipbuilding. Is this like a Spanish-American War Act, I think? And so that they were the ones who said it, where like if you are in a U.S. port, you have to go to another country and come back. And they lifted it briefly for the hurricane efforts in Puerto Rico, because ships weren't even allowed to go to Puerto Rico directly. They had to hit a U.S. port and then go to Puerto Rico. So it's good to hear that Biden lifted that temporarily for Alaska. Just if anyone was confused as to why that happens.
One of the only major cruise ships that I know of, it might be others, but Norwegian's Pride of America, which sails out of Honolulu and does the Hawaiian Islands, never leaves U.S. waters. That cruise, first of all, that ship itself was left something to be desired. The itinerary is unbelievable, but the price of it is astronomical, in part because of what they have to pay in order to make sure that all the labor laws. So even when I would, it's like I always loved getting in the spa, getting the gentleman's shave. They're not allowed to do it. They're not allowed to do it on that itinerary, on that ship, because in the U.S. that requires a barber's license. And
interesting.
So there were certain things they were not allowed to do because in the U.S. it requires a certain license, and so they couldn't offer it. I'm like, oh, okay. So, yeah, no, I'm fine with things being flagged in the Bahamas. I can get my shave. I'm all good.
Which is why we say tip your cruise staff well, because they are working their butts off for you.
Yes, they are.
And the comment cards are super important as well. If you ever think, oh, no one reads this, they absolutely read it. And I can tell you for the entertainment cast, any of the positive comments we get to see ourselves, they will literally type them out. They'll be like, Andrew gave us a tour of deck whatever after the show and blah, blah, blah. And we oftentimes get rewarded. So comments, both good and bad, don't go unnoticed.
And rewarded means he got an extra slice of bread with dinner.
Yes, an extra sanitation wipe.
Yeah. Well, the sanitation wipes, also known as kitty dukakis after dinner mints. I'm kidding. Oh, don't email me. And you got to be a certain age to get that joke. So.
I love after dinner mints.
What's that?
I love after dinner mints. But did you say Kim Dukakis?
No, kitty dukakis. Never mind.
Oh, is that like Mike Dukakis' wife or something?
It's a terrible joke. It's in poor taste. But I heard that joke once, and every time I see one of those little alcohol prep pad wipes,
Oh. I'll look it up.
it's terrible. I'm sorry. That was in bad taste. I'm a recovering alcoholic, okay? So I can crack those jokes, but I shouldn't. That was in terrible taste. I apologize. God, I got to do that in a live show, right? Got to do that when I'm live. And now I'm going to be cracking up about it all day.
I can't wait to look this up. Kitty Dukakis.
And there are people right now Googling Kitty Dukakis. But no, I'm extremely excited, extremely excited about the news coming out. It's a slow drip.
Mm-hmm.
I really wish Disney Cruise Line would just say something already. Like, what are you planning? Give us an idea. You know, Elaine, you were talking about people that have cruises booked that are sitting on pins and needles. Like, is this cruise going to go? We haven't heard anything. It's, you know, I'm supposed to sail in 6 weeks.
Right. I mean, I feel terrible for some of my clients that are scheduled in July and August, especially on the Alaska sailings, where, you know, these cruises are not expensive. They are expensive. They are not cheap. That's what I'm trying to say. And I've got people that have paid non-refundable concierge deposits and are kind of stuck because they don't want to go on the cruise, but they can't cancel and get their money back. And Disney's not canceling, and they don't know what to do at this point. So I feel my heart hurts for my clients because they don't know what to do.
And I got to do the plug. Because it's the truth. This is why you want an agent like Elaine or any of my agents at Dreams Unlimited Travel. I'm one of the owners of Dreams Unlimited Travel, just for full disclosure. They're there to navigate those waters, pun intended, in this craziness. When something happens, when something changes, they're aware of it. They know what to do. And so you're not sitting on the phone for 7 hours. And that's not hyperbole. Elaine can tell you stories of sitting on the phone for hours and hours and hours and hours. When some of these changes happen, cancellations happen, that alone, I'm telling you, they did such a great job. I'm so proud of all of them. But
I agree, Pete. As a 35-year-old who always assumed that you had to pay for a travel agent, or maybe that is how other vacations are, but the fact that someone could sit on the phone, and also, I mean, everyone goes to Disboards for the latest information anyway. The fact that your team is on top of like when the latest thing is broken, and you know someone will be on the phone booking a vacation for you, like with your interest in mind.
That's a good point. Thank you for reminding me. That is a really good point. It does not cost you money to book with a travel agent. You're paying the same price you'll pay Disney. You're just getting this incredible service.
Discount.
We get paid by Disney. By Disney, and so from commission. But
Pete, to say that you pay the same price as Disney, sometimes I think I even hear that and go, oh, so I'm paying full price. But you even find like what the next discount will be.
Yeah, whatever
discounts come out.
Whatever Disney's gonna charge you is what we're gonna charge you. And if a discount comes out after, well, not so much with Cruise Line because that's not how it works. But at Walt Disney World,
right.
You know, they come. You know, you book a room at the Contemporary, you book a package at the Contemporary, and 3 months later they release some special, and now all of a sudden that room's on sale. Our agents automatically go and try and get you that new rate. And
do you do this for Delta Airlines, by the way?
No, if only. If only. But very, very excited. I think we're gonna wrap this up. But I want a prediction. Elaine, when do cruises resume out of the U.S. ports?
I'm gonna have to say September. I would, we talked about this. I think the last show we taped was December, and I'm like, we're cruising in March, baby. I was ready, but I think that They're doing test cruises in June. I think that DCL is going to be a little bit hesitant because they want to see the other cruise lines go first and learn from them. So September?
Andrew, what do you think?
I'm thinking August, and I'm thinking, like I said, the Dr. Fauci, like 2 weeks, see what happens now that there's more integration of people not wearing masks in close places. Like, I'm predicting August.
Craig?
You know what? I was on the August bandwagon, but I'm gonna side more on Elaine's and say September with it.
I'm sorry. The correct answer is August. But you know what? Look, and I've been wrong. I've been wrong with every prediction I've made about when cruises were coming back since this pandemic started. I have been wrong. So I will own that. But I think if they're doing test cruises in June, got to remember this is a business. And cruise line in particular has lost more money than any other business unit they have. And it's also a massive moneymaker for them. So I crack the joke all the time that Bob Chapek is sitting in his office screaming, "I want my money back." Well, they're not going to do it. They're not going to do it. Honestly, they won't do it at the cost of safety. But they want these back as soon as possible. If they're doing late June test sailings, my guess is August.
Pete, can I say a sentimental note?
Sure.
This past January, was the 10-year anniversary of the Dream sailing. And like the Dream just has a special place in my heart. So I really want it to come back. I want them to be able to celebrate like 10 years of sailing that ship. I think the Dream is so beautiful. So, yeah.
Aw.
And happy Pride, everyone.
Yeah, happy Pride, right? All right,
And
folks.
one thing that we should note, one more thing that we should note is that for these test sailings, if the Dream passes and gets approved, that does not mean the other 3 ships are good to go. Each one has to individually get approved. I just want to put that out there.
All right. Let's see. I'm sure we will find out more. But that is going to do it for our show. We hope you enjoyed it. Just a reminder, please head over to our website, dclfan.com, and go join our Facebook group, DCL Fan, and join in the conversation. That's going to do it, folks. Hope you enjoyed it. We'll see you again next time. Have a great week.